things have to happen. Yeah.
Okay, so just so 2 points. First of all, how is that including a two-state solution?
Personally, I think that's the most likely resolution that both sides can agree to. I don't think a one-state solution is anything that Israel would ever agree to. I don't think that'll ever happen.
So how's that going to happen when Bibi's in charge right now?
Well, I mean, if Hamas is eliminated and if the Palestinians elect new leadership, I think that with the reduction of attacks from the Palestinians, I think that there would be a lot of mounting pressure on Israel to actually move towards a two-state solution or move towards some kind of permanent peace process. But as long as they can always point the finger at Hamas and blame them and say, like, well, look, these guys don't want peace. They just want to shoot rockets at us all day. That's going to be the #1 justification that Israel can use to kind of indefinitely stave off peace plans, right? Like October 7th is going to buy them at least a year or two in terms of never even having to think about peace plans, because they can just say, well, look at October 7, look at October 7, look at October 7.
And just one last question. I apologize for taking this question for you, Cenk, because I know you would ask this. How is it possible to say just eradicate Hamas? At what point is eradication? Is it possible to even eradicate Hamas? Okay, Cenk.
Okay, so there's a couple of different ways to approach it. So first of all, I'm going to start with what obviously is not going to work. And then I'm going to go to things that actually will work. So first of all, this idea of eliminating Hamas, it's comical. It's comical. It's ridiculous. So they killed 27,000 people on the way to killing 20 to 30% of Hamas, according to IDF. Now, no one believes those numbers. And so they just want to kill as many Palestinians as humanly possible while pretending to get Hamas, which, again, there's almost no evidence of a significant percentage of Hamas being killed. Now, you could argue, hey, we wouldn't have gotten as good a deal if we hadn't murdered as many Palestinians as we did. I think that's the argument of a butcher and not true. This idea of a one-state solution, both on the Palestinian side and the Israeli side, should be dropped immediately. That is a barbarous idea.
Hamas has very, very, very popular support amongst the Palestinian people. You're talking about having Abbas and the PA lead them. Pretty sure like 90% of Palestinians, like 92% of the West Bank want Abbas to resign. And the next most popular politician, Marwan Barghouti, or however you pronounce his name, that dude's like in jail, serving consecutive life sentences because of activities that he had in the Second Intifada, which is the reason why, by the way, Israelis are so radicalized. As many excuses as we make for the Palestinians as like, well, of course they're going to respond this way. Look at all the violence. Well, where did all the right-wing governments of Israel start coming from? In response to the violence of the Second Intifada. And you mentioned about how like
the occupation.
Sure, and you can say that, but like you just said that like, well, there are going to be 10,000 terrorist attacks. There already were hundreds of terrorist attacks from 2000 to 2004. That happened all throughout Israel. Well, sure, but and the occupation was in response to an invasion from neighboring countries. And I mean, like, you can play the, it can go back. Yeah.
That was like 58 years ago. It was 56, 54? How long ago was that? But we're still pretending that that's what the occupation's about.
Well, I mean, that's where it came from, right? That's when Israel originally invaded.
No, they just like occupying them. Keep it real. They like, hey, we get to be the powerful, finally. And look, I get it. It's like, it's
if they just like occupying, then why did they give the Sinai Peninsula back to Egypt for peace?
No, and now we're free. Then we love Mahmoud Abbas.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna. He can't create that state without the Palestinian support. Like you can't. He can't serve as a representative, realistically, a representative of the Palestinian people if he has none of the support of the Palestinian people. If Israel were to try to negotiate with Abbas, basically as a sole human being to try to create some government, there would be massive uprisings, there would be violence against Israel's, violence against settlers, violence against IDF. This would happen, and then I think people would be on the news saying like, well, of course, why are they trying to negotiate with Abbas? This guy isn't even a leader of the Palestinians. He's literally refused to hold elections in this place for almost like 2 decades. Like, why would they even try to negotiate with this guy? He doesn't represent the Palestinians. He's just a dog of Israel. He's just a servant to the IDF, like, which is what Palestinians right now currently think of him.
If you do a vote on Abbas before you start, he has no chance. If he gets them a state and gets them freedom, and then you do a vote, then he has a terrific. I
just don't understand. You can't get a state and get freedom when you don't have a mandate from the people to negotiate on your behalf. And Abbas doesn't.
So that's okay. So good. So Destiny, good question. And do we have a mandate from the Palestinians? Anyone who's being occupied, of course, is going to hate you. So in the middle of that occupation, in the middle of that war, in the middle of that hatred, you go, no, I'm not going to deal with them because they don't like me enough. Well, then you're never going to get the peace.
It's not about dealing with somebody because hold on, yeah, it's not about dealing with somebody because you don't like them enough. I'm just saying that the Palestinian people aren't going to accept any negotiations that Abbas is doing.
That's what I'm getting at, Destiny. But if you think because of that hatred the Palestinians don't want peace, you're totally wrong. Totally, utterly wrong.
Okay, no, but to be clear,
they want two-state solution.
I don't. That's not supported in any of the polling data that Palestinians want a two-state solution. And when you say that people want peace, I think peace is a reductionist argument. People don't want peace. People want justice, right? If Israel were to offer Palestinians a two-state solution where all of them move into the Gaza Strip and that would cause peace, like nobody would be happy with that. They wouldn't consider that a just resolution to the issues that they face. I think that the issue is that Israel historically, I say historically, not even like in the attempts to negotiate peace for the Palestinians, it feels like the people that get most support from Palestinians are radical groups like Hamas or radical actors, not people like Abbas, not the Palestinian Authority, which I think is historically unpopular with Palestinians, or Abbas, who is incredibly unpopular. And I think that issue, I don't know how you deal with it exactly, because it's a very complicated, like top-down, like religious, cultural, political, social issue that you have to deal with in terms of like bringing the Palestinians like to a calmer place. That has to happen before any kind of negotiations happen. Because again, like, I mean, going back to the start of this, you can't negotiate with Hamas. Nobody would expect anybody to. That just can't happen. Your leadership can't be Hamas. And if Palestinians hold free elections and they elect more terrorist groups, well, what are you going to do? How do you negotiate with that group of people? It just doesn't, it can't happen.
Jews and Muslims, including Palestinians, live there for
I don't care. So for the way that I don't care about Jews and Muslims. I don't think that's relevant here. I think what's relevant are Israelis and Palestinians. Jews and Muslims did live together, even in this very region, kind of happily. But the issue is that by their perception, European people came in who were also Jews and then created the state of Israel. And this is where a lot of the issues come from. But I mean, I don't know how relevant that is to today. The reality is the Palestinian people that are there don't like the Israeli people that are there. I don't think that it's an anti-Semitic driven hatred for them, although that bleeds into a lot of it since now Palestinians aligned with so many anti-Semitic and extremist groups like Hezbollah or the Houthis or Iran. But I think that the only way, like, I can't think of, so here's like an idea that I have. I don't know if this is actually true or not, but my guess for why radicals always win when it comes to rising up against countries is probably because radicals don't stay in power for very long. You've got coups, you've got radicals, they, take over a government that's failing, but then eventually, inevitably, radical groups never hold power for long. Once they fail, something more stable happens for a long period of time. It's always those stable regimes that start to fail that have radicals come up that are offering something different in order to, convince the people that we should try this instead. But I don't think you can negotiate peace with radicals and then just slowly over time turn them moderate. And also, if you're an Israeli citizen, why would you ever think that that would happen, given the entire history of like your two states existing next to each other has been violence?
Help me understand who you think can be a partner for the Palestinians.
Something that I thought was a really cool idea that I saw floated on Twitter that supposedly Egypt, Israel, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia were talking about. I don't know if this actually amounted to anything, it was true, but it was the idea of another country stepping in and them hosting a government basically there, that Saudi Arabia would send somebody to the West Bank and they would serve as trying to create a transitional government. I think that sounds like an interesting idea, although I can see a billion ways that would go wrong, but at least it would lend some credence or some stability to a government there. But I can't even imagine how Iran would respond to that or what that would look like. Again, I can see a million ways of it going wrong, but Abbas can't be negotiated with because the Palestinian people, Cenk, I'm sorry, but at no point in human history has anybody negotiated with somebody with no mandate from the people. You just can't do it. Even Arafat himself was pressured by his thought of losing a mandate for the people for negotiating.
Look, you're totally assuming it. You're assuming that the Palestinians don't want two states. They don't want peace, and that's a crazy assumption.
But it's supported by all the polling data.
But
wait, how do you wrestle with that? How do you wrestle with the fact that the majority of Palestinians, when polled, support?
Of course. If in the middle of my family being murdered, you ask me, do you support the murderers? I'm going to say no, I don't support the murderers.
And I agree with you, but now you're just, but they've seen Israel as being the murderers for 60, 70 years, or for the entirety of them existing here. I feel like there's a very Western imposition when we say stop and when we say peace. And I'm trying to get people to move off this. Nobody in the world ever wants peace. MLK didn't want peace, right? We talk about like the uneasy tension that exists when there's peace but not justice. What people want is justice. The problem is when you look at Israel and you look at Palestine, their definitions of peace oftentimes are highly conflicting. For Israel, peace might mean where they annex parts of the West Bank, where they continue to push the Palestinians into increasingly smaller land. They control their airspace indefinitely, and then they make a two-state solution where they're essentially occupying both states still, right? That might be peace for Israelis. Peace for Palestinians might be a one-state solution where every single 6-7 million Palestinians get right of return. They all get to come back. They get to vote. They get to create a Sharia law, Islamist government, and that's peace for them. When we talk about peace, that's not relevant. What's really relevant is what is justice for both sides. And as long as Palestinians' form of justice is whether it's terrorist attacks or whether it's encouraging to fight against the Israeli government, this is the history of Palestine and Israel, is them constantly fighting against each other. And I don't know why we make this excuse for Palestinians where we're like, well, of course they don't support Abbas and they don't want to negotiate because their family's been killed. That's where all the right-wing governments in Israel came from, was from Palestinian terrorist attacks, especially the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2004. There's like the biggest radicalizing moment for so many Israelis. I don't know why we don't grant them the same leeway. Like, oh, okay, obviously Israelis are super radicalized as well.
As long as the people are occupied, they are going to fight back. If you deny that, you're just on a different planet. Like,
I don't disagree that the occupation is a thing that bothers a lot of Palestinians and drives them towards a more radical position.
Yeah.
But I think one thing you don't understand is a lot of Palestinians consider Israelis present in the Levant, in this area, to always be an occupation. For some of them, a two-state solution is an occupation still. And I think for Israelis, I think the worry is that even if you did tomorrow negotiate a two-state solution, not only would the attacks not stop, now they're going to be elevated because now they've got their own country to launch attacks from. Now when we go and attack them, now we have to like declare war and it's going to be a whole other thing. Why would Israeli citizens, what faith would they have that Palestinians would be peaceful after a negotiated two-state solution if Israel just right now acquiesced to all of their demands?
If you say because they might attack us, even after we do peace and justice, I'm never going to give them a state, you're saying I'm going to be permanently the bad guy, permanently the occupier, permanently the oppressor.
Okay, wait, I'm curious. Let's say right now, let's say that, I mean, in a very reductionist way, kind of, let's say that Palestinians had a state and it was a combined state of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Let's say that this was granted to them, a year ago. And then let's say that October 7th happens again. Would you support the current Israeli invasion into the Gaza Strip? Everything else the same. The same number, 25, 35, whatever thousand deaths, 20 to 30% were Hamas militants. Would you support the same Israeli military operation to the Gaza Strip if they were their own country?
So that's a really good question. And I have two answers to that. One is, I would accept it a lot more than the current situation.
But it sounds like you wouldn't accept it. I don't think you would. I think you'd be making the exact same.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I'm getting to the second part, right? So number one, I accepted more because, well, brother, you gave them everything they asked for. They still attacked you. I get it. Right. And so that's point one. Point two is, no, even in that situation, does there come a point, Destiny, and I would flip this back to you, where you're 200-pound guy with giant muscles and the other kid's like 80 pounds and you've already punched them in the face 20 times. This is getting grotesque. So is there a point where it gets to be too much? Of course, it would be under any situation where you've got a war between two countries, right?
Okay, but like nobody supports.
Acknowledge that,
no,
right?
That what?
That at some point that the country that was attacked has counterattacked so badly that you say, okay, enough.
I don't evaluate conflicts and counterattacked so badly or number of people killed. I'm thinking of like mission objectives, which I think is how every single commander everywhere in the history of all of warfare thinks of warfare. It's not just by number of deaths or whatever, it's by military objective, which is, in this case, it's decapitating what they consider to be a terrorist government or a terrorist group.
But you know that's impossible, right?
It's not impossible. I don't think so. No, of course not.
You think they're going to kill enough Hamas members? And at this rate, that means minimum like 55,000 dead Palestinians.
We don't know 100% how many. I mean, now that the ground invasion has started, I mean, the civilian deaths have slowed down quite a bit, or the
no, they haven't. 150 today. It's 150 every day.
Yeah, it's better than 700 to 1,000 a day in the early conflict. Like the deaths were way higher under the airstrikes. You can look, you can plot, you can see all the deaths per day. There are still Palestinians dying every day, but the numbers have fallen off quite a bit compared to when the invasion started. But I don't think, with what you said, and I know you're saying you might support the invasion, although it sounds like you're given a lot of reasons why you wouldn't support the invasion. I don't think so. I don't think anybody supports.
Attacked by an independent country, of course they get the counterattack. Of course.
No, it's not just a counterattack. You keep trying to make this sound like it's a tit for tat. That's not how this works. Like Israel wants to be a secure country. If you're getting attacked by somebody, you have a military objective afterwards. Their military objective is to not get attacked by them anymore. It's not like, well, you killed 1,200 of our people. We're going to go do it October 8th into your territory and kill 1,200 of your people. That's not how it works. That's not how it ever works.
To me, that breaks my, and Destiny, if 150 Israelis were dying every single day, and we're like, no, Palestinians ain't accomplished their objective. They still don't have a two-state solution. Kill another 150 Israelis. Kill another 150 Israelis. Kill another 150 Israelis. I don't think you'd be good with it. I don't think America would be good with it. I don't
absolutely
think anybody would be good
I'm
with it.
not good with it. It's horrible. 150 Palestinians. I don't know where this not really human thing comes out from. I don't know if you actually do have some anti-Semitism bleeding under the surface. I don't know why you keep bringing that up. I don't think anybody's arguing for the anti-humanness of Palestinians. This is a very real geopolitical conflict that doesn't need. I do care if they die. Hamas doesn't care if they die. And Hamas is the owner of the region, and Hamas is the one conducting warfare. I don't know why we're so critical of the defending country here. When Hamas is the one that Hamas has popular support of the Palestinians. Hamas operates out of the Gaza Strip, and Hamas does infinite attacks against civilians. Hold on, you wanted me to answer the question. You asked me if I care that civilians are dying. I do. I think it's horrible that civilians are dying, but the responsibility there rests with Hamas. And if anything, for the Palestinians to continue to support Hamas, which unfortunately is still the majority of the Palestinians. That is a big issue, and that has to be dealt with before we ask Israel to just roll over and grant them infinite peace as a reward for the October 7th attack, and then pray that they don't attack them in the future. Even though if they did attack them in the future, people like you would still say, well, you don't have the right to do that, just like you would probably against the Saudi-led coalition going after the Houthis in Yemen, even though the Houthis in Yemen are shooting ballistic missiles into Riyadh. You're going to say the exact same thing. Well, no, there's a famine, there's a humanitarian crisis, there are too many civilians dying, like that attack. Israel is still the big guy. Israel's still the 200-pound guy against the 120-pound guy, even if they're two separate states. So no, I don't agree that giving them a separate state achieves anything for Israel. I don't even think it gives them better humanitarian standing for people internationally like you that would criticize them regardless. And I just don't see any reason. I think it's absolutely true, but
why the hell would I criticize Israel after they make a peace deal and they have two states? Well, that doesn't even make any sense.
You would criticize them for this same counterattack if Hamas continued to attack them from the Palestinian state.
No, I said you could do a counterattack, but there comes a point where you've murdered enough.
So wait, so counterattacks are just measured? Is a counterattack just measured in human life then? If they kill 1,000 of my citizens, I go kill 1,000 of theirs. Is that the point of a counterattack?
No, your point is endless war, and you just admitted.
I didn't say endless war. You want endless war. You're saying because if you kill,
they're going to attack anyway because they're savages, right?
No,
how many are you going to murder, Destiny?
However many it takes to complete the mission. Because
daily.
You're
Cenk, when you see the IDF in Gaza right now, do you not see them as what they're trying to do, which is trying to wipe out Hamas, or do you think they're just trying to kill Palestinians for no reason?
No, I think they're trying to punish, collective punishment of the Palestinians. I think they're barely trying to get Hamas. They've barely been in the tunnels. They've rescued no hostages. They've murdered hostages.
Wait, hold on. How can you say
Palestinians wantonly on tape with your own eyes, and then you tell us, oh golly gee, they meant to shoot someone else, but they just accidentally murdered 27,000 Palestinians. They are the best military in the world, but they always miss. And oh, there goes another civilian. Boy, they were really trying not to kill them. Come on. Again, if you're an Israeli supporter, right-wing Israeli supporter, you believe that with all your heart. I get it. But the rest of the world doesn't believe that.
But nobody. Hold on. The rest of the. First of all, if Israel was trying to just kill civilians, a 2 or 4 to 1 ratio of civilian to fighter death for civilian to Hamas militant death in a highly urban environment completely betrays that entire analysis. If they were trying to just kill civilians, they're doing the worst job of any invading power in a highly urban environment ever. Why wouldn't they have killed 100,000 or 500,000 civilians? If they really wanted to just kill as many civilians as possible, why have they only killed 20? What, has it even gotten to 30,000 yet? Why have they killed so few?
Well, it hasn't even been 30,000. Can you imagine if we said about Israelis? They didn't even kill 30,000 Israelis. They only killed 1,200 Israelis. What's the big deal? Because that is what Israel's doing. They killed 1,200.
Why have they only killed? Why have they killed so few? Why have they killed so few?
Now it takes a whole week to kill 1,200 Palestinians, but no one cares.
First of all,
dead Palestinians are irrelevant to the West because that's why I make the point about non-human.
No, that's not true. Dead Palestinians
being killed, you would be livid. Dead. But when a Palestinian is being killed, you just genuinely don't.
No, Cenk, I think that's not the point Destiny's trying to make. What he's trying to say is, why, if Israel really were just trying to kill Palestinians and they were just about collective punishment, couldn't they kill so many more people?
Yeah. So that's an easy talking point. Yes, there's a difference between genocide and Holocaust. If anyone says Israel's trying to do a Holocaust where they're trying to kill every single Palestinian, that is obviously not true. I mean, they never go in the tunnels. They barely ever kill Hamas. They never rescue.
What do you mean barely kill Hamas? 20 to 30% of the deaths so far been attributed to Hamas fighters. How is that barely killing them?
Yeah, like they've never shown any, anyway, I don't
They've never shown any what? They've shown tons of video footage of tons of different things, but okay.
Okay, all right. Then I bombed 85% of the buildings, and then now a quarter of them, 500,000 people are starving. 80% of the world's people that are starving in the world are in Gaza right now. But if you think that's all an accident, they didn't mean to do any of that.
80% of the starving people in the world are in Gaza right now?
That's right, according to the United Nations. I know you're going to say, the United Nations is anti-Semitic. We don't count it. We don't count it. Nothing
Considering
counts.
the population of Yemen is like 35 million people and there are only 2 million people in Gaza, how can, and I'm like half the population of Yemen, that's just one country. That number is insane. There's no way that number is true.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't matter. You're good with it. You're good with the deaths. You're good with the starvation. They haven't accomplished their objective yet. Their objective is vengeance and terrorism.
Then they're doing a really bad job of it. Why haven't they killed 400,000 Palestinians?
Because they wouldn't be able to get away with it.
Okay, so they're trying to kill indiscriminately, but only as much as they can get away from. But they've also managed to kill 25% of the civilians are militants. And
so your big defense of this genocide is, well, we didn't kill them all.
There is no genocide.
We didn't kill them all.
Yeah.
I mean, we butchered 27,000 people, but we didn't kill them all. By the way, that's exactly what the Serbs could have said in Srebrenica. By the way, the Turks could have said it about the Armenian genocide. They attacked us and hid behind their human shields.
So 2 million of them needed to be death marched?
At what point would you say this is the IDF have actually accomplished their plan to eliminate Hamas? Or how many? I know I asked you this in the last debate, but it's a really good question.
I unfortunately, I'm not.
Worth it.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual like military decision is when like the job is finished. I don't know if that includes like a certain amount of their leadership killed. I don't know if that includes like a loss of confidence from the Palestinian people, or if it includes like a certain percentage of fighters, or if it includes a certain percentage of whatever. I don't know how they do that military distinction.
Is there a certain mark of death that you're okay with, or it's just really whatever it takes to kill out?
I mean, like what I would be looking for basically is to make sure that the ratio of like basically that the ratio of militants killed to civilians killed still seems to be falling within where you would expect it to be for combat like this, given the number of militants and the number of civilians. I don't think there's anything right now that's crazy out of whack. Because if it's about like 1 militant killed for every 3 civilians, given how highly urbanized the conflict is, given how much Hamas hides among like the civilian population and operates out of the civilian population. So as long as the warfare continues to move in that direction, and hopefully there's no like major famine or anything that occurs in Gaza the same way that there has been in Yemen, then I mean I would probably continue to support the military operation, because with Hamas in the Gaza Strip, I mean what is this, our 6th Hamas-Israeli war? Like it's not going to stop. That's never going to stop. Hamas has been launching rockets constantly. We can use all the morally loaded, dogged or like bad terms we want about Israel being murderers or killing all Palestinians or blah 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 blah. But the reality is this is what Hamas thinks about Israeli citizens. That's why they launch rockets every single day and have been for 15 years. It's why they celebrated October 7th. It's why their spokespeople say they want to do more and more October 7th. It's why they are committed to aligning with people that also want Israel destroyed, right? If you look at who are the Palestinian Hamas partners, it's the Houthis, it's Hezbollah, it's Iran. These people don't have moderate positions towards Israel, and they surely don't support 2-state solutions among themselves either, any more than they support a North and South division in Yemen. So yeah, I mean, like right now, I don't know how it's going to happen or what has to happen if another Arab state has to take the reins on it, but something has to happen to slow down or calm down the feelings of the Palestinian people that are pushing them to want to fight so much. And Cenk's idea of having a boss be the negotiator, historically it doesn't work. You can't just pull a random person from Mexico and say, you are now the Mexican negotiator, and we're going to do trade agreements, and we're going to do state agreements, and we're going to do border. That just doesn't work. It can't work. Historically, it hasn't even worked in this region.
You just don't want it.
No, you don't want peace. You're asking for an impossibility, which is for Israel to say, okay, you guys that have all been trying to kill us for however many years, we're just going to go ahead and hand the reins over to you to completely govern a state, and hope that despite the fact that you're being supported by terrorist groups that are shipping weapons to you and want to see our state destroyed, we hope that you're going to just become peaceful over time for reasons, even though we're negotiating a peace agreement with somebody that even was popularly elected and still is seen as a tool of the Israeli government, but maybe with only 10% support, if we negotiate something with him, you guys will all accept it. That's just unrealistic.
Okay,
it would never happen.
I can't take it. I'm going to say something potentially offensive, but
okay.
That is just a dumb talking point. Every battle is between 2 sides who hate each other. So this lunatic standard of, I will not do a peace deal until the Palestinians love me, is just total bullshit.
It's not about them loving you. It's about you have the way that you do peace deals is by eliminating their will to fight. That is how a peace deal is done.
God.
If they still want to fight,
murder Destiny.
how many died in World War II? How many Soviet citizens were killed by the Germans? How many Nazis were killed? How many German citizens were killed in the Dresden bombings? How many Japanese people were killed in the Tokyo bombings? No, you're talking about.
You just said it.
Okay.
I want to murder no Israelis. Never.
None.
Ever,
okay.
ever.
So in World War II, in World War II, you would have negotiated peace with Nazi Germany. Is that what you would have wanted to do?
It's total apples and oranges.
Okay, we'll compare it. No, hold on. We hate each other. You don't negotiate peace with people you like. You negotiate peace with people you hate. So for Nazi Germany, so we really hate the Nazis. Would you negotiate peace with Nazi Germany in World War II instead of going to war?
So Destiny, this is your favorite stupid analysis.
I'm gonna ask the exact. Call it down. That's okay. Ask it tough. Go ahead, do it. Okay, I'm gonna ask the same question when you finish your rant, though. I'm gonna ask you: would you negotiate peace with Nazi Germany? Go ahead.
So the Nazis were in the middle. Of murdering 6 million Jews and 13 million innocent people, let alone the millions that died in the war. So if in the middle of their murder, somebody said, hey, let's give them what they want, that would have been dumb.
So like right after October 7th?
Hold on, you asked the question and I'm answering it. But when the Germans stopped fighting back, okay, and you can say, hey, I want Hamas. And the difference between Hamas and the Nazis is that the Nazis had a massive army. So when they fought, they killed thousands and thousands and eventually millions, right? The Palestinians have peace shooters. So they're like, oh, well, technically one came over. Okay, nobody got hurt and we have Iron Dome, but good enough. I want to just keep going. No, you get to peace at some point. But you don't do it while the Nazis are butchering people. That is that is a legitimate war to protect those people.
So you have to.
But right now, October 7th happened months and months ago. And every day you've been killing thousands and thousands or hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians. And you say, not enough, not enough, not enough, not enough, kill more, kill more, kill more. You're the guilty one.
So once Normandy happens and the Germans are like, okay, shoot, we don't know if these forces are going to push on us. Maybe it's
You're comparing Palestinians to Germans. The Palestinians have no power. The Nazis had tremendous power.
It doesn't matter. I'm talking about negotiating peace with an enemy. Would you negotiate peace with Nazi Germany rather than going to war and killing potentially millions more?
Destiny, do you know that?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Their leader killed himself. We bombed their cities into a non-existence. We completely destroyed half the country. That's not even counting what we did to Japan. We destroyed the enemy's will to fight. They surrendered unconditionally.
We did after that, Destiny?
After the unconditional surrender, yes. After.
Hold on, After. You know what we did after that? We did, as a world, we did the concept of war crimes so that both sides would stop murdering their civilians so grossly. Let's go back to the bad old days where we murder each other's civilians to no end. But by the way, I'm not a terrorist. I want to kill all their civilians, but I'm not a terrorist.
Nobody is talking about killing all their civilians. Also, I'm pretty sure Geneva Conventions. This was after Geneva Convention. Geneva Convention was after World War I, not World War II. Okay, so we already had laws governing conflict, and we still killed a whole lot of civilians. Also, secondly, again, my point stands. How did we achieve peace after World War II? It was with a lot of cooperation, after massive invasions, after destroying the enemy's will to fight, and then followed by decades and decades of occupation.
How should America respond to the Houthis? That was really it. So, Cenk, you go, and then we'll go to Destiny.
So I understand what the Houthis are doing, and what they're basically doing is they're a toll road in the Red Sea, and in order to go around, it costs 10% more to those ships. Wow, I'm so worried about the 10% more. Get out of the Middle East, peace, two-state solution, end the occupation, and get the hell out.
Destiny?
You can't attack and close international shipping lanes because you're not happy about another conflict that's unrelated to you. That should absolutely be enforced with the full brunt of every military option we have available to us. If you're attacking or trying to close international shipping lanes, then yeah, your stuff is going to get blown up. I think that's a totally reasonable response. If the United States should be doing anything internationally, it should be guaranteeing free passage through shipping lanes. It's like one of the only noble, righteous missions we could possibly have when it comes to conducting international warfare.
I don't agree with noble. It's all about money. In fact, they call this Operation Prosperity Guardian. So they're pretty brazen about it. This is all about capitalism.
Yeah, I agree. It is a lot about money, and poor people that can't afford things like food or water or other goods or services are the ones that are probably hurt the most when these types of shipping things get contravened, right? The cost of shipping containers is exploding across Europe, who already were feeling crunches from energy pressure and energy prices. Like, it's not like rich people are necessarily being hurt as much by increased cost of goods and services. It's probably going to be poor people that get hurt the most, is what I would imagine. But
not America, but corporations had to pay 10% more.
So we see every opportunity America.
Wait, hold on. If corporations have to pay 10% more, who's ultimately paying more at the end of the day?
I know the beloved corporations must be protected because of poor people.
What is the corporate? No, if your profit margin as a corporation is 10%, and now your cost is 10% more, you don't make any money. You have to. The consumer is going to pay the cost. That's how all inflation costs work.
But hey, do you agree that the Houthis, what they're doing, we might hate it and we might counterstrike, but it's very logical. They're trying to help their brothers in Palestine. They're the only ones that are helping. They're saying, okay, we're going to put a 10% tax on you guys.
They're not trying to help their brothers in Palestine. Their own citizens are experiencing unprecedented famines. What might end up being the worst famine in the last century. A real famine, not the one that you guys talk about happening in Gaza all the time, but an actual one where hundreds of thousands of people are starving to death. Where when you look up pictures, like if you Google like pictures starving Gaza children, you see children in okay clothes with dirty faces standing in lines for food. And when you look up pictures of starving Yemeni children, you see babies with bloated stomachs and corpses, okay? Yemen is having a real famine where hundreds of thousands of people are either starving. I think 40% of their children have stunted growth. They don't have access to food or water. UN missions are having to be cut off because the Houthi are literally commandeering supplies for warfare. So no, I don't think that the Houthis' mission right now should be to blow up international shipping containers, to screw over the whole rest of the world to help their brothers in Palestine. They probably are doing it because they get weapons and training from Hezbollah and from Iran, and those people are invested in the mission in Israel, so they kind of got a way to suck Yemen into it as well, which I think is immoral and bad and horrible.
I'm going to intimidate you back by killing you more. No,
just to be clear, that mentality is what has stopped wars worldwide. That's why NATO and the United States being the big bad bully guy, that's why major powers generally don't go to war anymore, with the exception right now of Russia and Ukraine. And that's also, funnily enough, the history of Israel too. Them being a big bad bully is what finally got all the other countries around them, as you said, to acquiesce and sign peace deals with them. So that seems to be the way to go, is making yourself small and vulnerable and accepting terrorist attacks over and over again and getting, blown up with guys. That's called appeasement. We've tried that. It doesn't work. It never works. Usually the way that you make it work is to be the bigger bully and to say, hey, listen, if you do some shit, you're going to get slapped. That's how it usually works.
Okay, look, guys. Into a fight for peace and justice. No more war, no more occupation, no more money to Israel. As long as they continue to do that, they are not our ally. They have gotten us into tons of conflicts on their behalf because they wanted more land. This is the worst ally in the world. They never listen to us. And if they don't end the war and the occupation, we should send them absolutely no money, and you have no answer. So your answer is endless death for Palestinians, but I can't believe they're fighting back.
Yeah,
Destiny, maybe just take a minute to respond and then we'll finish.
Sure. This is my frustrating thing when it comes to talking about international conflict, when it comes to talking about politics, and when it comes to talking about solving these things on the ground, okay? You've got some people that work incredibly hard in government, in NGOs, in political negotiations from other countries that really try to bring the conflict to the end. And then you've got pundits that make money off of hyperbolizing the actual conflict and not actually saying anything meaningful about it. It is so frustrating to hear over and over again, 150 Palestinians, 150 Palestinians, 150. That doesn't get us anywhere closer to anything. Nobody asked the question, how many Japanese need to die before the war ends? How many German soldiers need to die before the war ends? How many Iraqi soldiers need to die before we stop the first Gulf War? How many people need to die in South Korea, in Vietnam? Like, that's not how anybody has ever thought about the conflict. You don't know how many people died in Yemen, do you? You probably don't know how many people died in the first Gulf War, do you? You probably don't know the total death count in any military conflict, but in this particular one, the only thing anybody seems to know is how many Palestinians died. It's the only thing that people know, which is ironic. Even earlier, you said that you don't care about Palestinian civilian deaths. The only thing you seem to care about is Palestinian civilian deaths. And the only thing that you want is the short-term minimization of those deaths, even if it comes to the long-term actual procurement of a real, lasting, peaceful justice, which is something you have absolutely no concern of talking about, which is why you're presenting the most ahistorical, unbelievable idea ever, that Abbas, who is universally one of the least popular Palestinians ever, you could get a guy called Finkel Goldstein, okay, to be the leader of the Palestinians, and he would pull higher than fucking Abbas. Hamas. The fact that you want this guy to be the one to negotiate these peace deals with Israel when we're probably leading to the third, fourth, and fifth intifada combined is just an unrealistic solution. But in response to any of these actual roadblocks that somebody puts up before you for peace, the only thing you can say is murder, evil, immoral, 150, dead every day, evil, U.S. not good, don't support evil. But like even what you're saying here, don't support Israel anymore as the United States. What do you think Israel would do if they didn't have the support of the United States? We might be one of the only partners that are actually reining them in, which we have. It's why we've encouraged them to slow down on their strikes. It's why we've encouraged them to allow humanitarian aid in. We're probably one of the only people that Israel will actually listen to when it comes to curbing the violence that happens against Palestinians. I think that there needs to be an actual conversations about pundits, like actually talking about realistic peace plans and not just repeating these like talking points over and over again of like 150 dead, 150 dead. That doesn't get us anywhere. We've never thought about any conflict like that ever.
Well, I think that's a good end.